Good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, September 21st, 7-ish p.m. here in Washington, D.C., and I'd like to welcome you to tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital, WCUA's only baseball-centric talk show. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-hosts, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz, and as always, we're going to be breaking down the latest in the baseball world. But first, we'd like to thank you, of course, for tuning in. We are back and live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. right here on WCUA Radio. And our shows will be posted, of course, in podcast form right after on either YouTube or Spotify. So whichever you prefer, you can go ahead and listen to it there. If you can't catch us live one week, please go ahead, follow us on Twitter as normal. That's at NatPastimeCap. And we also have an Instagram account now, so definitely follow us on Instagram as well.
It's at NatPastimeCap on Instagram.
Excellent. So go ahead, follow us on Instagram as well as on Twitter. And as always, if you want to call in and ask us anything about baseball, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. So let's get right into it. We have another fantastic week of baseball to break down. Let's start off with the news around the league, and I think we're going to lead off with what has been I'd say probably the most historic season for a catcher we've ever seen, and that is Salvador Perez and what he's doing in 2021.
Yeah, or at least since Johnny Bench. Salvador Perez is having a phenomenal season this year. Yesterday, he broke Bench's record for most home runs by a catcher in a single season with 46. He's got a 5.3 B-WAR this year. He's hitting .276 with an .866 OPS. He's slugging .548, has 115 RBIs, and he even has a stolen base to add to his stat line. What he's done this year is incredible. A lot of people criticized the Royals general manager Dayton Moore for signing him to a 4-year, $82 million extension at the beginning of the season. Dayton Moore laughed. He said, look, this is the guy who we want to lead the franchise. This is our generation's George Brett, this generation's Alex Gordon, whatever you want to call it. And he's been more than just a leader in the clubhouse. He's been phenomenal on the field. And what Salvador Perez is doing right now in year one of this, not even year one of this 4-year extension, the last year before the extension, he's been phenomenal, and he could very well be on his way to the Hall of Fame. What a historic season for Salvador Perez. Salvador Perez's great season is getting lost in the American League with the likes of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Shohei Ohtani, both having phenomenal seasons. But if he were to go to the NL, I think you'd have to put him right up in that MVP consideration with Bryce Harper and Tatis as well. He's having one of the best offensive seasons in all of baseball. And just going on the longevity of Salvi, he's a 7-time All-Star, a 5-time Gold Glove, a 3-time Silver Slugger. He's going to be a 4-time Silver Slugger after this year. He's very well making a strong Hall of Fame case, and right up there with Posey and Molina as the best catchers of this generation.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Salvador Perez also brings a lot of great defensive abilities, and I think that's what's going to make him a potential MVP candidate for sure. Not only can he really hit, but he's also a really great defender, and that's what separates him from every other catcher in baseball right now for sure.
Talking about Salvador Perez and the unbelievable season that he is having, let's move on to another topic. This one a little more fun, and that is, guys, we kind of had the reverse Rick Ankiel this week in a guy named Anthony Gose. Wasn't that interesting?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Anthony Gose hit 101 miles per hour as he was pitching yesterday. Anthony Gose, as you guys might remember, was a former outfielder for the Detroit Tigers, played for the Orioles for a little bit. I don't remember who else he played for as a hitter, but he really struggled as a hitter, and then out of nowhere, he just signs as a pitcher. And it's amazing because there are several people who are failed hitters that have been trying to go into pitching. You know, Rick Ankiel is another good example, and there have been other people like that as well.
It's just a remarkable turnaround, and it shows, like, baseball, the door never closes, and there's every avenue you can go, from hitting to pitching, pitching to hitting, positional changes, batting stance changes, whatever you want to do. If you're willing to put in the work and the effort, the game will find a spot for you.
Yeah, without question. And like you said, Robbie, he's been on a number of teams, and actually he was drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies a long time ago. And I got some trivia for you guys. Actually, he, along with 2 other active major leaguers, were traded to the Astros at the trade deadline in 2010 for a pitcher named Roy Oswalt. Do you happen to know who those 2 active major leaguers are that he was traded with?
What team was he traded from?
He was traded from the Philadelphia Phillies to the Houston Astros, 2010.
Oh, one of them was Hunter Pence, right?
No. The Phillies acquired him.
The Phillies. Oh, sorry. James, you know?
No.
I don't think either of us know, Andrew.
All right, it was actually Jonathan Villar, current third baseman for the New York Mets, and Jay Happ, starting pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, who has been around forever. So, very interesting little tidbit there. The guys he was traded with, also still active major leaguers.
Wow, that's actually really crazy. I mean, shows that this guy's been around for a long time. Makes me feel pretty old as a baseball fan. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, he's Anthony Gose is like I said. I remember when he was a top prospect. Now he's a lefty throwing 100 for the Indians. You never know with them. They develop pitching quite well. Maybe this guy finds a new leg of his career here.
It's remarkable. Let's see what happens. Maybe he and Bieber are the next 1-2 punch in the American League.
Wait, he's a reliever for now, though, right?
He is indeed. He's a reliever.
So is he only going like 1 inning? Is that what he's been doing? Or
He made his debut as a pitcher last night and only threw 1 inning. I think he gave up like 1 run, struck out 1, maybe 2. So it wasn't anything amazing. It was just cool that he made it back as a pitcher.
Did you see what opponents were hitting against him in the minors?
I did not. Was it low?
They were hitting about 196.
Wow, that's pretty remarkable. Especially like I said, guy is hitting 101. That's not too shabby.
Absolutely. Anthony Gose has a lot of potential as a pitcher, possibly. Hey, we'll see. He's like 33, I think.
I believe he is around that age, yeah. So we'll have to see. Well, moving on then, I think one of the biggest discussions that we have to have here before we move on, of course, to the postseason race that is currently occurring around all of Major League Baseball, and that's the MVP race. Because, guys, we have 2 races right now in the AL and the NL that is just... It's a toss-up. To some people, I will say, to some people it's a toss-up. To other people, it's not. But you have legitimately 2 candidates in both leagues that could easily win this award. And let's start off with the AL because you have a guy who pitches and hits with 44 home runs, and you have a guy that might win the Triple Crown. Who do you guys have in the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. versus Shohei Ohtani MVP debate?
For me personally, I think it's going to be Shohei Ohtani because I think that the ability to pitch and hit is just absolutely irreplaceable. Also, his WAR of 8.0 is unheard of. Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s I think is about 6.8, falling just short of Ohtani's. It makes me sad to say this because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. could very well win the MVP, but he's still probably not going to win MVP because I think it's almost a shoo-in that Ohtani's going to win. I don't even think this one's much of a debate.
Ohtani has had this locked up since the All-Star break. Look, yes, he's hit 223 since the break. He's only hit 12 home runs. He hasn't been, the dynamic offensive force that he was in the first half, but he still has a WRC plus of over 115. It's 117 since the All-Star break. He's still getting on base at a decent clip. What he's done both hitting and on the mound is transcendent. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would be the MVP in either league in probably any other year, period. There's no doubt about that. He's flirting with the Triple Crown, tied for first in average, tied for first in home runs, and third in RBIs. I mean, what he's done this year is transcendent, and he is probably the most feared hitter in the game. I mean, there's no one. If you could pick a player to start your franchise with for the next 10 years, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is at the top of pretty much anyone's list. But what Shohei Ohtani is doing is transcendent. He's a generational talent. He does it on the mound. He does it at the plate. Right now, he's got 44 homers, 94 RBIs, 23 stolen bags, which I think is a large part of his game that's underrated. 44 bombs, he's hitting 255. And oh wait, he can also pitch on the mound. This is what combining Mike Trout and Jacob deGrom put him into one player, and that's what you get with Shohei Ohtani. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. He's got a 3.28 ERA on the mound and 123 and a third innings pitched. He was the starting pitcher of the All-Star game. He hit leadoff. By far, Shohei Ohtani is the American League MVP, even if Vlad does steal some first-place votes.
Absolutely, and also I think he's got a pretty solid record as a pitcher too, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
He has at least 9 wins or so, right?
Yeah, I think he's 9-3 or something like that. He's been going off this year.
9-2.
9-2 as a pitcher, also hitting 44 home runs. That's just unheard of.
See, I'm of the same opinion. I do think Shohei Ohtani's had this award locked up because it is just it's silly to make a debate that someone is more valuable than a guy who pitches every 5 days and also has 44 home runs and plays the outfield and DHs. It's ridiculous. And as generational talent, we're never going to see a season like this again. And up until this point, I've thought it is without a doubt a lock for Shohei Ohtani. The problem is, and James, actually, you want to make a point here real quick about Ohtani?
All I'm going to say is his next contract, not his next contract, his next arbitration hearing, can he make the jump? And Dallas Braden said this on Starting 9, from $5 million to $40 million in 2023. I don't know. But his next contract in free agency, when he's up in 2024, that is going to shoot the moon. $500 million.
I think that's reasonable. No one else is worth what he is worth to a baseball team. I think that's very reasonable to say $500,000. And I do still think he should win the MVP, but the point I wanted to make here is, guys, what happens if somehow Vladimir Guerrero Jr. wins the Triple Crown? Do you still give it to Shohei Ohtani? Because I think it gets a lot more interesting if that happens.
I still give it to Ohtani, but it definitely does become more interesting. Another thing that I think people have to remember is that the Blue Jays are probably going to be in the playoffs while the Angels are going to be way out of it. Can you imagine a guy hitting for the Triple Crown and then leading his team to the playoffs and then losing it to a guy who didn't even make the playoffs. It definitely becomes interesting, but I still give it to Shohei Ohtani.
It's not Ohtani's fault the Angels are out of the playoffs. They have the two best players in the sport, and they still can't get any sort of talent around them. Ohtani is their only pitching and one of their only two contributors offensively in terms of star power, because Rendon so far has not produced this. This year he's been hurt. Even if Vladdy wins the Triple Crown, it's still Ohtani's MVP. And I know that might sound crazy to some, but he's had it locked up since the All-Star break. And it would have to take Vladimir Guerrero to shoot him out of the moon in every single category, which right now they're pretty much neck and neck in home runs and RBIs. Vladdy does have a slight lead in RBIs, has a big lead in average, but in home runs he's only up 2, and you combine that with what Ohtani does on the mound, it's got to be Shohei Ohtani.
100%. I 100% agree.
Very well said indeed. We all agree on the AL MVP, thinking it should be Shohei Ohtani. But let's move over to the NL, where I believe the debate is even stronger between two teams who are currently not in a playoff spot but are fighting to try and make one of the last remaining ones. That, of course, Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres and Bryce Harper, the Philadelphia Phillies. Guys, let's start with you, Robbie. Who's your NL MVP and why?
So who do I think who should win it or will win it?
Oh, that's actually two separate questions. So go ahead and say who you think should, and then I guess who you think will, because I'm assuming that means you think it's two different players.
Yeah, definitely. I think that Bryce Harper should win the MVP, but I think Fernando Tatis Jr. will win the MVP. I think when it comes to the numbers and the advanced analytics, I think Tatis Jr. has the lead in it, but I think Harper should win it because there are so many different things that Bryce Harper's done. And he's been the best hitter in baseball and the best hitter in the National League in the second half, arguably. So I think that's why he should win it, but I don't think he will be able to beat Fernando Tatis.
It's been a close race all season long, and Tatis, most of the summer, has had the leg up, but right now it is Bryce Harper. On the season, Harper, he's hitting .311. He's got 80 RBI, 33 homers, an OPS plus of 181. I don't think people realize, yes, that's not what his 2015 season was, 197. This is by far his second best season. This is by far a generational player having another generational type season. And the numbers that Bryce has put up since the All-Star break are staggering. I mean, this is a guy who people just overlook. He's become so overrated that he is underrated. Bryce Harper is truly one of the best players in the game, one of the most feared hitters in the game. People forget that he's only 27 years old. People forget how good this guy is. And what he's done for this Phillies team, he's carried them on his back, because if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't be anywhere close to the postseason. And then going to Tatis real quick. Tatis, he does have the edge in B award, but that's about the only edge he has. He's trailing in average, trailing in RBIs, trailing in OPS, trailing in OPS plus. He does have more stolen bags than Bryce. I think that Bryce Harper will win it. I think Bryce Harper should win it. He's been the better player for the second half of the season. He's been the better player since he's been the better player on the team that is performing better. Right now, the Padres are 10-24 over their last 34 games. They've choked away a playoff spot in a year where they should have won over 95 games and should easily be in the playoffs, be in playoff contention. The San Diego Padres have choked this season away in the second half. Bryce Harper is your National League MVP in 2021.
Without question, absolutely agree. You made a great point there that the Philadelphia Phillies wouldn't be anywhere near the postseason right now if it wasn't for Bryce Harper. Talk about putting a team on your back. I've never seen anything like it, the way that Bryce Harper comes to the plate every single day and knows that if it is not for him, if he doesn't produce that day, the Phillies will lose that game. And that is what it's come to.
This guy has the clutch factor, and not a lot of people realize that because the Nationals didn't come through when he was there. He had some big postseason moments in Washington. He's had a lot of big clutch moments in the second half here with Philly. He was born for these type of moments, and when the Phillies do eventually make the playoffs during his 13-year tenure, he is going to carry them to a World Series. Like, the guy is a generational talent. He's in his prime right now. He's a future Hall of Famer if he continues at this rate, which I think most of us agree that he will. And he's on track to become the 12th MVP to not make the All-Star team in the year that he won the MVP. Not a lot of people realize that Bryce Harper didn't make the All-Star team. I think people are just going to assume that he made it. A lot of guys skipped out on the game. I'm sure they'll think he skipped out. No, Bryce didn't make it, should have made it, got snubbed. He's going to become the 12th guy to not make the All-Star team to win MVP in that same season. And again, what he's done just can't be understated, because everyone should know how good of a season he's had, because I still think it gets overlooked. Tatis is the face of baseball. Yes, he's had a transcendent season. Yes, these two are going to be dueling for years to come for National League MVP awards. Tatis could very well win it next year, could also win it this year. But this should be Bryce Harper's award to lose unless he chokes it away in these final 9 games.
And I don't really understand why people are so surprised that Bryce Harper is an elite baseball player. We've had this discussion on here. We had it over the summer when we were doing more podcast-based shows, that people just all of a sudden kind of forgot that Bryce Harper was Bryce Harper. And, I'll give some credit to Buster Olney of ESPN. I'm not normally one to give credit to ESPN because they're kind of a clown organization when it comes to covering baseball. But he made a great point. We've known who Bryce Harper was since he was 12 years old, and at some point he just kind of faded into our minds as, yeah, he's there, but, maybe he's not what he was promised to be or whatever it may be. But, that's a good point. Like James said, he actually is only, I believe he's 28, actually. I think he just turned 28. Still a young guy, still a guy who's going to carry this Phillies team for many years to come, and there's nothing else to be said. I think that when you take a look at the value that he adds to the Phillies versus the value that Tatis adds to the Padres, it's close, but it's Bryce Harper's edge.
See, I think that when you look at the basic statistics, I think that's where Tatis might have the edge, and I think that's why a lot of people like him, not only because he's a face of baseball, but when it comes to basic stats, he has an edge in a lot of it. When it comes to WAR, he has higher WAR than Bryce Harper does. He has more home runs, more runs scored.
That's B-WAR. You're counting B-WAR. He has higher.
No, total. Like WAR overall.
No. WAR is tracked by two different places.
Yeah.
Graphs.
Right.
Baseball Reference.
Baseball Reference.
One
WAR.
of them, Harper has more, and the other one.
Okay. I use Baseball Reference.
Okay, well, not everyone does. That's the point. Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you use for sure.
But yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
Also, I was going to say he has more runs scored, more RBIs, more stolen bases, and those are a lot of the most basic statistics that the average fan will look at, and I think that's another reason as
But
why.
If we're saying average fan here, take a look at batting average. It's almost a 30 to 40 point difference in batting average. You have on-base percentage.
Especially in the second half.
In the second half, too, yeah.
Tatis has been good since he's come back off the IL, but he hasn't been what he was in the first half. Bryce has ascended in the second half. He's hitting over 340 in the second half to raise his season average to 311. I mean, that shouldn't be understated. The performance down the stretch when the Phillies needed him most.
And guys, I don't know about you. I don't have an NL MVP vote, but I value games played. I value a guy who's out there playing all of his games, And Fernando Tatis Jr. has played something like 15 less games than Bryce Harper.
It's 12 less games.
Is it 12? That's okay, like 15 less games. That's around there.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. I value that. And Fernando Tatis Jr. has had 3 different times this year where he's gotten hurt and missed time, and that's unfortunate. But the guy's he's not reliable when it comes to staying on the field. Bryce Harper, besides getting hit in the face by Genesis Cabrera, which I was very hot about on the show back in May, has been on the field every single day. Someone asked him if he needed a day off because he's played every game for something like 40 or 50 straight, and he literally said, I can't take a day off. Like, I cannot do that.
Since Girardi's Phantom IL stint with Harper in the middle of May, he has been unstoppable.
And by the way, if you take that out, he was unstoppable before that, got hit in the face, suffered for maybe about a week where he was really cold, and then came back and was unstoppable. The guy's had 1 week this entire year that he hasn't been one of the best hitters in the National League, and that was just because he got hit in the face.
Yeah, no, 100%. Bryce Harper is definitely a strong MVP candidate. I do think that when it comes to defense, though, I think a lot of people like to shame Fernando Tatis because they see the amount of errors he commits. Although if you look at his fielding WAR, or his defensive WAR rather, it's called, his defensive WAR is actually not that bad. I think that's something that people need. I think Fernando Tatis has developed a bad reputation when it comes to his defense, when in reality, his defensive WAR is only -0.3. He has a better defensive WAR than Bryce Harper does. I still think Harper should win it, but I think that a lot of people point to defense. I think that's misleading.
Can I throw another name in the ring? This guy's not going to win MVP, but Bryce Harper right now, second in the league with a 427 OBP. He's got a slugging percentage over 600, 1047 OPS.
I know where this is going.
Juan Soto has a 461 on base percentage.
Yeah.
He's hitting 300, 400, 500. I don't know the exact numbers, but he's got a 300, 400, 500 slash in the second half. He has a 6.5 B-WAR. Just imagine if he was on a contending team or if the Nationals, could have actually contended. Juan Soto's having a transcendent-type season, a 461 on base percentage. We haven't seen numbers like this since Bonds. I mean, it is truly special. No matter how bad the Nationals are, what Juan Soto is doing is special. He's had one of the best second halves ever. The guys to hit 300, 400, 500 in the second half, it's happened with Votto in 15. It's happened with Bonds 4 times, and it happened with somebody else. Passan said it the other day on Twitter and on Baseball Tonight. I don't remember who the other guy was, but it's truly special what Juan Soto is doing, a 461 on base percentage when there's literally no one else in that lineup.
I also think that it's kind of it's unfair to basically criticize Juan Soto and just leave him out of the MVP race because the Nationals are not doing well. When Mike Trout wins the AL MVP award every single year, and the Angels they've only made the playoffs 1 time with him.
Yeah, that's such a debate. It always comes down to, do the voters value a player getting their team to the postseason, or if their team's in the postseason? In the case of like Trout or Ohtani, I don't think it's fair. They're having ridiculous seasons, and they're going to win the MVP. But the reason I think it does matter sometimes is you take a look at a guy like Bryce Harper right now. If it is, talk about most valuable player, if he is not on the Phillies are a steaming pile of garbage, and they're nowhere near the postseason. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Harper's much more valuable to the Phillies than Tatis to the Padres.
Right.
Because I think if you take Tatis off the Padres, which we've seen when he's been on the IL, they've still been really good this year.
They were good.
I think
yeah.
if you took him off right now, they would have been worse than 10-24 because his numbers over this stretch. While the team has been bad, he has not been bad. The blow up on Saturday night was bad. The Padres, there's a lot of turmoil there. Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr., they will win their MVPs eventually. And I'm going to say it right now, Soto is your 2022 NL MVP.
Wow. I mean, hey, the kid's what, 21?
He's
23.
He's
the closest thing to Ted Williams since Ted Williams.
He will win his fair share of MVPs. I've said it so many times to so many different Nationals fans. No matter what we disagree on, I will always say Juan Soto is the greatest I have ever seen in my life.
All right, if you could pick one player in the game right now to start your franchise with, who would you pick? Soto, Tatis, Vladdy, Acuna, Devers.
It's not Fernando Tatis Jr., I'll tell you that much. It's probably Juan Soto. It probably is Juan Soto.
So you're saying out of like any player in baseball, or
yeah,
just the guys?
Well, yes, he wants to pick Luke Voigt, James. So
No. Because you put Rafael Devers instead of Shohei Ohtani.
I'm listing the best 25 and under guys.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'd probably definitely Juan Soto for sure.
I think we're on agreement here, Juan Soto.
Yeah.
Without question. Well, one more discussion we want to have here in the dugout discussion section before we move on to the playoff race, because we got about 30 minutes left, and that's going to take definitely the rest of the show. A quick reminder, if you want to call in at any time about any baseball subject at all, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. And that last topic, courtesy of Robbie. Robbie really, really wanted to discuss this on the show tonight, and that is Luis Severino coming back to the Yankees and the impact it could have on their postseason hopes. If you're not aware, they are, I believe, a game and a half out of that second wild card spot. I'm sorry, half a game behind the Toronto Blue Jays. Robbie, very quickly, what is the impact that Luis Severino has if he makes a start for the Yankees?
Well, if we get the Sevy that we witnessed in 2018 before all the injuries came along, I think that this could be huge for the Yankees, because if he's good, all it takes is for one game. One game is all we need, and if we can win a big playoff game or a big game down the stretch, I think that could take us to the playoffs. So if Sevy is really good, because the rotation's been very shaky for the Yankees recently, as you guys may know, Garrett Cole got shelled, Jameson Taillon's been injured, Andrew Heaney's just horrendous out there. We have a real pitcher in Luis Severino coming back, and we needed him. So if Sevy gets one start, and I think he's only getting one start, that one start could be the difference between us missing the playoffs and making the playoffs, because I think the AL wildcard race is going to come down to the last game.
I don't know why Yankees fans are holding on to Luis Severino like he's some sort of savior. He hasn't pitched in nearly 2 years. Their hope should not rest in him. He's not very good. Whatever they get out of him is an added bonus. There's no reason for his one start in September to transcend the season and to turn the season around and to save it when they've performed like a mediocre baseball team pretty much all season long, besides the 13-game winning streak. Right now, look. They're still half a game out. Right now, before the season started, they were pegged as the favorites in the American League by everyone. Nobody could beat them. The White Sox couldn't touch them. The Astros couldn't touch them. Nobody could beat them in the American League. Only the Dodgers could beat them. Right now, they're in fourth place. They're not in the playoffs. Why would your hopes rely on Luis Severino? Well, maybe they should, because Garrett Cole got rocked when it mattered most on Sunday when the Red Sox won, the Blue Jays won, and it vaulted the Yankees out of a playoff spot.
Okay, because here's the thing. Luis Severino was really good when he was in rehab.
Right,
he looked really
ago.
good.
He was good 3 years ago.
This past, like before he got hurt with the quad injury, he looked really good. And what I'm saying, James, is this is going to come down to the last game. Yes, the Yankees have had a disappointing season. I have reiterated that over and over and over again. I don't know how else I can make that more clear. The Yankees have had a disappointing season, and this is going to come down to the wire. And if Sevy has a really good start, that could really help our chances in the playoffs, because right now we don't have many good pitchers who I would trust down the stretch, and Luis Severino is somebody who I would actually trust down the stretch. I don't know how I can make it more clear than that.
No. I get that, but in a one, like the Yankees aren't winning the division, so they're making a one-game playoff. You're not starting Severino in the wild card game. Cole would start if the Yankees.
I'm trying to get to the wild card game.
Fair enough.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the discussion about that wild card game and the other postseason races that are happening around baseball. While a few are kind of, I'm not going to say definitely decided, but mostly decided. Of course, the NL Central most likely going to the Brewers. The AL East most likely going to Tampa Bay. AL Central, the Chicago White Sox.
By the way, Tampa
AL
Bay, a game under 500 in September. I'm not saying they're going to choke the division up, but just be careful in the playoffs.
They're what, 6 up, I believe?
Yes, no, they're going to win the division.
No, I'm just asking.
Yes, they're 6 up, but they're a game under 500 in September. Since the Glasnow injury on June 15th, their starters have an ERA over 5. Never know in the playoffs.
No, I absolutely agree.
Like, they have been the best team in the American League all season long, but in a short series, their starters haven't pitched well since June. Their game under 500 at the most crucial time of the season. They could be had.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking at. In the AL West, then, of course, definitely going to be the Houston Astros. So that leaves a few races that we really want to highlight tonight, that being the NL East, the NL Wild Card, the NL West, and the AL Wild Card. And I think the most interesting of those races that we should take a look at first is, well, you know what? Actually, no. Let's take a look at the divisions first. There's less competition for the two that I mentioned, the NL West and the AL West, really between two teams for both. Guys, let's start with the NL West. Let's go out west and talk about the Dodgers and the Giants. Now, both of them within a game right now, I believe, of each other. Do they play each other again this year?
No, and right now the Giants play the reeling Padres.
There you go, and they're looking to go ahead and take advantage of a Padres club that, as we discussed, not doing too well over the past couple weeks. And then you've got the Dodgers, of course, who went out at the trade deadline, had the massive, huge move of getting Max Scherzer, of getting Trey Turner, of doing what they needed to do, they felt like, and the question is, did they make these moves, and are they paying close to $300 million of payroll to play in a one-game playoff?
All right, so here we go. The remaining schedules. The Giants have 3 with the Padres, 3 with the Rockies, 3 with the Diamondbacks, 3 with the Padres. So right now you have a 3-game series at San Diego, 3-game series at Colorado, then the Giants go home, 3 hosting Arizona for 3, hosting the Padres for 3, which is, 4 lackluster teams. I mean, the Padres have played terribly since July 1st. They're 10-24 in their last 34. It's really easy schedule for the Giants going down the stretch. For the Dodgers, they have 3 against Colorado. 3 at Colorado, 3 at Arizona.
Colorado good, by the way, at home.
Yes, Colorado good at home. Better. It's going to be a tougher series than expected. 3 at Arizona should be a sweep. 3 hosting San Diego. Then the last 3 for the Dodgers. This is going to be a tough series against the Milwaukee Brewers. And if the Brewers can reel off a bunch of wins, that could be important for Milwaukee, as they're going to be vying for home field advantage in the National League if the Giants and Dodgers were to struggle down the stretch right now. San Francisco 97-53, the best record in baseball. LA 1 game back, 96-54. Milwaukee enters 91-59. So there is a chance if the Brewers do get hot that they could be playing that last weekend of the season for something, home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So that's no cakewalk for the Dodgers. I still think the Giants win the division. They've been the best team in baseball all season long. I think we can agree on that. Like, the Dodgers have had the most talent on paper.
Finally, we're giving them credit, right?
We've talked about, we're always waiting for the Dodgers, but look, this is the Giants' year. Chris Bryant's made a tremendous impact since being acquired at the trade deadline. They keep plugging along. Buster Posey's the man. Giants win the division.
Robbie, who you got? Dodgers versus Giants. Who's taking the NL West crown?
Oh, I also said the Giants were going to win it, mainly because I think the Giants are better than the Padres, and also I don't think the Dodgers are going to sweep the Brewers. I think the Brewers are going to take at least one game.
So you think the schedule plays in favor for the Giants?
For the Giants, yeah.
Just because of that last weekend.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm also going to agree on the Coors Field impact, too. I think the Rockies play really well at home field.
There's something like 15 or 16 games over 500 at home. When on the road, they're almost 30 under. It's amazing.
And look, I don't want to assume anything because baseball's a crazy game and anything can happen in one game, but I think no matter who goes to that one-game playoff will most likely win that one-game playoff, whether it's the Dodgers or the Giants.
Of those two, you mean?
Yes. And that will be a phenomenal NLDS. That will be the Giants against the Dodgers will be a phenomenal NLDS.
Oh yeah, and you think about it. There's even more pressure to win that. Not just because you want to win that. You don't have to play in the game.
You don't have to burn your ace.
You don't have to burn your ace. That's what I'm saying. If you're the Dodgers and you have to play in that game and throw Max Scherzer out there, yeah, you got Kershaw and Urias and all them behind them.
Walker Buehler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But still, you got to burn Scherzer in that game to make sure you can play another game.
Right. Well, the wild card game would be on Wednesday, October 6th. So then Friday would be game 1. You could pitch him. You could pitch whoever you pitch in the wild card game in game 3, then maybe on short rest in game 5 in relief. It'll be an interesting strategy.
Right. Absolutely. Any other thoughts on the NL West there? We can go to the East before we talk about the wild card.
No.
All right, let's over the NL East, where it seemed to be a 3-team race for the majority of the year, maybe at 1.4, but coming down to the stretch, definitely the Mets, Phillies, and Braves. Braves, and I'll say it on here, I've said it before, and I'll say it on air right here, that the Atlanta Braves had one of the most impressive trade deadlines of that I've seen in a long time. You're talking about a team that was out of it, that was probably, I think it was 3 or 4 games under 500 when they were making these trades, and they completely retooled. They got a new closer. They got tons of new outfielders. Unbelievable job by the GM there in Atlanta. And you know what? It's improved for them, and they are in first right now with 3 games over the Philadelphia Phillies. I think everyone can agree here that the Mets are not making the playoffs, so we're not going to really discuss the New York Mets. Sorry, Mets fans. Not the greatest year for you guys. Very unfortunate. But it is a 2-team race in the NL East, and you have the Phillies who did not play well the last 2 games but are still hanging there, only 3 games back. And, guys, that is relevant, again, because of the schedule. The second-to-last series that the Phillies play and that the Braves play are against each other at Truist Park in Atlanta, Georgia. And guys, is it fair to say that will probably decide the division?
Well, before the show, I told Andrew that if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, your goal is to go into that series only being a game and a half out of first place. I think that's the target for the Phillies, is just a game and a half, because then all you need to do is win 2 out of 3, which I think they could very well do in Atlanta. Do that, and then you got the division pretty much. But if you're down, let's say 2 or 3 games, even if you swept the Braves, that doesn't guarantee a division win. So I think evidently that the Braves are going to win the division, but I think the Phillies have a very good chance of getting it. It's just a matter of how close they can get to the Braves before that series. That series is probably going to determine whoever wins the division, but it also depends on how close the race is by the time the series happens.
That series is shaping up to be one of the most exciting of the next 2
and
weeks.
It could also determine who wins National League MVP. Like let's just say Bryce flounders in that series and the Padres revive themselves. Tatis gets hot. Then it would probably be Tatis's award, right? Like I think right now we're obviously all in agreement that it's Harper's, but you like to speculate things and play devil's advocate because this is baseball. It's such a great game. Like that could also determine the NL MVP award. And if Bryce goes off, then he just adds to his resume. It's his award. But that's what's so great about it, is that the MVP can really come down to the final days of the season. And I think one more thing that should be noted about this NL East race. The Atlanta Braves did all of this without Ronald Acuna Jr., which imagine how much better they would be with him.
By the way, also without Marcell Ozuna.
Right, without Marcell Ozuna, and how much Freddie Freeman has heated up from his awful April and May. I mean, Freddie is probably one of the most underrated players in the game still, even though he's got an MVP. Unless you watch baseball every night, nobody really talks about Freddie Freeman. He's truly one of the most underrated players of this generation.
Going to get paid this offseason.
As he should. He's one of the best first basemen in the game. I mean, he deserves to get another $130+ million contract.
The one thing that I want to add is this the most exciting season we've had in a long time? Because I cannot think of many seasons where it's literally come down to the wire. I can think of like the 2010 AL East race, if you remember, when Dan Johnson hit the walk-off home run.
2011 as well?
Yeah, and then 2011 as well.
He's thinking of 2011.
Oh, you're thinking of 2011?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, my bad.
It was the one where the Red Sox blew it to
the Red Sox blew it to the
Sorry,
Orioles.
James. Where Jonathan Papelbon in his last appearance.
This might be the most exciting baseball season we've had since 2011.
Yeah.
I can't think of a more exciting season.
One more thing about Atlanta. Adam Duvall, 6th in the league in homers.
That
should go. I mean, nobody realizes that, but their acquisitions have been phenomenal. Jock Peterson, Jorge Soler. You can go on and on and on.
That team transformed themselves into a team that all they do is hit home runs. They win their games by hitting home runs. Look at that lineup and how many people have 25 home runs.
But it's a scare. They might strike out a lot, but it's a scary.
That's
lineup.
what I'm saying.
It's a scary lineup.
And this was not how the Braves operated the past couple years. They had players who hit home runs, but
they know who they're getting back next year. They're getting Acuna back.
No.
year,
I'm saying I'm saying it's impressive that they've went from a team that played a lot of small ball, that had a lot of situational hits, to a team that's just going to hit 4 home runs a game, and that's how they're going to beat you. It's remarkable.
And they're so well run organizationally, top to bottom. Brian Snitker's done a great job ever since he's been hired. Alex Anthopoulos, since he came over from Toronto, I think top to bottom, they're one of the best run organizations in baseball. I mean, you look at their history of success in the 90s, that into the early 2000s, then the early part of the 2010s, and then now from the late part of the 2010s to the current, they're about to win their 4th straight NL East title, I believe. Right, 4th straight NL East title.
If they win, it'll be 4th.
If they do win, it'll be their 4th straight NL East title. I mean, at some point, a team like that has got to win a World Series, or else it's a complete failure.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought last year was their year to do that.
See,
I really did.
My only thing is building a team that relies solely on the home run. Major risk.
Well, that's
I'm a
the thing,
Yankee
though.
fan.
It's working right now.
It's working right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, in the playoffs, it's a major risk. I'm a Yankee fan. The Yankees have done that every single year since 2009.
Well, I don't think anyone thinks the Braves are going to go very far if they make the postseason. I think the point that I was just trying to make with James is that it's impressive that they realized, hey, we can't win like we have in the past. We have so many guys out. We need to go and reinvent our team for the second half just to make the playoffs, and that's what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Because they're going to be the winner of this division will probably face Milwaukee, and Milwaukee, I think, is being very overlooked by a lot of people. They have tremendous pitching. Corbin Burns is in the outside discussion for the MVP race with Max Scherzer, and he's going to be in the thick of the Cy Young conversation with Max Scherzer and with Walker Buehler. Those three will finish in the top 3. And then you have Brandon Woodruff, you have Freddie Peralta, you have Josh Hader, Devin Williams, top to bottom. They're tremendous. They need Yelich to be Yelich in the playoffs, and they need Adames to continue his hot hitting. But I think they're a team that is being overlooked by a lot of people because you have the 2 juggernauts in the West in L.A. and San Francisco. You have Atlanta, Atlanta or Philly, who's just going to kind of get in there, at the end, as we've been saying all season. Milwaukee's overlooked in the National League. We'll see what happens in the postseason, But it wouldn't surprise me at all if they make the World Series because pitching wins championships.
I honestly think that the Willy Adames acquisition might be the most underrated acquisition of a team.
Oh,
this
talk
season.
about a guy who just went off after he was acquired. I mean,
He
he's
should
been
finish top
fantastic.
10 NL MVP.
He might.
Yeah, definitely.
He might. Well, yeah, that wraps up the 2 NL divisions. Let's go ahead and talk about then the wild card, because that's all the other teams that we mentioned all trying for that last spot to play either the Giants or the Dodgers. Just a quick reminder, if you want to call in at all in the last 15 minutes here of the show to discuss anything baseball related, that number is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. Guys, the NL wild card. Who's going to have the honors of losing in? Well, I'm not going to say that. Of playing.
Don't jinx it because then they'll win the game 11-2.
I mean, hey, we watched what happened here in Washington 2 years ago, so I'm not going to say anything. But think about it, guys. You have the Cardinals, who we need to talk about because they have been red hot. You have the Padres, who of course are flopping at the worst possible time. They're still in it. You have and then you have the Reds and Phillies, who are both 3.5 back. Phillies, I'm going to say right away.
The Reds are 3 back, Padres are 4 back.
Sorry about that, yes. And I believe the Phillies are actually 4 back. And I will say, before we continue this discussion anymore, I don't think anyone really thinks the Phillies are making it to the postseason as a wild card. I think it's agreed that if they're going to do it, it's going to have to be the division. So we'll just take them right off the list. Let's talk Reds, Padres, Cardinals. And why don't we start off with the Cardinals? Winners of 9 straight, just swept San Diego out of St. Louis, having a fantastic run here at the best possible time. Guys, why do the Cardinals do this every year? Every single year, it seems like they're a joke, or they're out of it, or they're playing mediocre baseball, and then in the last second, they decide they're going to make the playoffs.
I just think that it's just pure consistency from them. I mean, they're facing a really good Brewers team right now as well. And they've had a lot of great productive seasons. Paul Goldschmidt's been really good. Tyler O'Neill's been really good for them. Arenado's had a really solid season. And then you got pitching. Did anybody expect Adam Wainwright to be this good this season? I don't think anybody expected this in their wildest dreams. So I think the fact that a lot of guys that we didn't expect to step up have stepped up, I think that's a big reason why they're so successful. Yadier Molina, too. He's been really good for them as well. So lots of surprises from them for sure.
Nolan hasn't had his typical Nolan Arenado type season. He still had a good season, but he only has an 816 OPS and a 123 OPS plus, which again is solid, but not a typical Nolan Arenado season like we're used to. But he's still obviously making highlight reel defensive plays. The leadership that he brings in the clubhouse with Goldschmidt has been tremendous. But the one guy I really do want to hit on is Tyler O'Neill. He just won NL Player of the Week last week, hitting .391 with a 1308 OPS, 10 RBIs, 9 runs scored, and 3 bombs. He was getting on base at a 481 clip. They went 6-0 last week. Obviously, they're on a 9-game winning streak. First winning streak of 9 games or more since 2005, which is hard to believe for a franchise like the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, O'Neill, really, he's been hot and cold a lot this year. He had a hot stretch in May. He had a hot stretch in July. Hot stretch now, obviously, with Player of the Week. He's going to be very important for their lineup in the postseason because they need guys other than Goldie and Arenado to produce. Obviously, Yadier Molina has been consistent on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. You have Adam Wainwright. For the playoffs, if they make the wild card game, are you starting Adam Wainwright or Jack Flaherty?
I'm starting Adam Wainwright.
I'm going with Adam Wainwright, too. He's been so good this season. He's been their best pitcher so far.
I agree, but it is an interesting debate because if the Cardinals do start Flaherty, I would not be surprised at all.
All right, let's take a look at another team in the NL Central who is vying for that wild card spot. That's the Cincinnati Reds, who were very hot a couple weeks ago. Not playing great as of late, but something I want to note, and this is the case with a couple teams we've talked about so far, a somewhat easy schedule remaining, a lot easier than the rest of their opponents who are trying for this wild card as well. They do have, I believe, 2 more against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They play 4 against the Nationals. They do have 2 against the White Sox. That'll be hard, but they end their season in Pittsburgh. Does that play a role, or have you counted out the Cincinnati Reds? I mean, they have not been good lately.
No, I think right now it comes down to the Reds and the Cardinals because what Joey Votto is doing right now, he's turning back the clock and he's
vintage Votto.
Exactly.
He's playing like
vintage
an
Votto.
MVP contender. He's another MVP contender, by the way.
I mean, he won't win it, but I agree.
Yeah, he's in the
33 bombs, 2 last night, 1 to tie the game, 92 RBIs, 948 OPS, 138 OPS plus. He's turning back the clock. What he's done this year has been really awesome because this is a guy, he got his 2,000th hit last week. Probably going to make the Hall of Fame, and it really is awesome to see.
I don't think probably. I think definitely.
Yeah, he's definitely
a Hall of Famer.
Right. But I think that this is a guy who's been on a lot of losing teams, and it's really awesome to see him contribute to a winning team. Nick Castellanos, another guy who's had a phenomenal season. Jesse Winker just came off the IL. He's having a great season. I think the Reds are right in the thick of it, and they're going to be in the thick of it till the very end. And I hope it's the Reds or the Cardinals. That's going to be a phenomenal race, and I hope it's the Reds. I got nothing against the Cardinals, but I just think the Reds are an offensive team, and they're fun. Like, if you watch a lot of baseball, they are a fun team. And I said the first week of the season on this show, the Reds offense is here to stay. Well, they've been phenomenal all season long, and I hope they close it out, close the gap, and face LA in that wild card game.
Two things with the Reds. Firstly, to your point about Joey Votto and them being a fun team, I believe he had a quote a couple weeks ago where he said he's having the most fun in his entire career. And that is just so cool to see because he knows, like you said, he's been on a lot of losing teams, and this is an opportunity to really make the postseason and maybe do some damage. And, it's great that he's getting that chance. The other thing with the Reds, a very, very underrated midseason acquisition that they made to ensure that their bullpen was going to be a lot better.
Gosh.
Luis Cesa. Guys, you know how good Luis Cesa has been since he joined the Cincinnati Reds?
Trust me, I'm well aware. I don't know off the top of my head. I think he has a 1.31 ERA for the Reds. They also got Justin Wilson as a part of that deal. That's the main reason the Yankees made that trade, was because they wanted to get rid of Justin Wilson. Justin Wilson's not good, by the way. I'm well aware of that. And that's why the Reds basically got Luis Cesa for free, because they got Justin Wilson as well. But trust me, it was a bad trade from the Yankees. We got Sal Romano in return. Romano just isn't that good.
It'll be interesting to see. Okay, what's their strategy if they make the wild card game?
Their strategy is
do you go Castillo to Gray? Do you trust the bullpen, or do you just go to
That's the thing. If they make it against, and they say they play the Dodgers, because that's what we're predicting, what do? You start Castillo and hope he has a good night and shuts down the Dodgers offense, and that's all you can really do.
He's been one of the better pitchers in the second half of the National League.
Castillo's ERA in the second half is well below 3, by the way.
Right, but I'm saying, what if he can't go complete game?
You're saying you go right to Sonny Gray, so let's say you do that, and Gray, and I get it, you don't play another game unless you win that game, and then you go maybe Cesa, and that's it. But then, what's next? What do you do in Game 1 of the NLDS against the Giants?
You got to get there first.
I know you got to get there.
You either have to hope that you're out to a big enough lead where you can trust the bullpen, or that you go with the bullpen in a close game and they get the job done.
I mean, so the anti-Buck Showalter, if you will.
Right.
Hey, I think Tyler Mahle is a good enough pitcher to. I mean, if you need somebody to go in Game 1 of the NLDS and they make it, I think Tyler Mahle is good enough to start in Game 1.
No, I think the point is you're right. Yeah.
Also, Wade Miley. Wade Miley's been really good this year.
He's cooled off, but
yes, he could pitch in relief in the wild card game instead of Sonny Gray.
I think they would go to Wade Miley because he actually has pitched out of the bullpen in playoff games. Whereas Sonny Gray, the only time he's ever pitched out of the bullpen was when he was so bad for the Yankees and they had to take him out of the rotation.
Yeah,
that's the only time he's ever been in the bullpen. So I could see them go to Wade Miley before Sonny Gray.
All right, so I think we all agree NL wild card probably coming down to the Cardinals or the Reds, with the Padres as an outside chance. They're really going to depend on how they play the next 2 weeks, just like it will for everyone. Let's quickly move into the AL in the last 7 minutes here of the show. I believe the only division that we really think might kind of still be up for grabs of the AL East, but even that seems very
Tampa's
unlikely.
got that on lock.
It's going to be the Tampa Bay Rays. I think a lot of us agree. So let's take a look at that wild.
One thing to note is that right now the Rays are beating the Blue Jays. That's actually an important thing.
That is an important thing. Of course, let's talk about the teams that are vying for wild card, because the three obvious ones, of course, the Red Sox, who are in possession of the first one right now, the Blue Jays with the second, the Yankees a half a game out.
The Red Sox have a 1.5 game lead on Toronto and then a two game lead on New York.
Right.
Also, and the Yankees are winning right now.
Right, but I don't want to forget, guys, the Oakland Athletics are still right there.
Yes, they're 2 back, and Seattle is 3 back.
I think, again, a team that a lot of people are sleeping on. That team has won, correct me if I'm wrong, something like 89 games or 86 games?
The Mariners have won 81.
81, I'm sorry. I think I was just surprised to see an 8 in front of their win.
Here's the big thing. Right now, the Mariners are facing the Athletics.
See, and that will decide which one stays in the race.
Here's the biggest thing, and I think you want to talk about schedules going forward.
Yeah.
And you can't complain with these 3 AL East teams because, believe it or not, folks, the AL East teams, all 5 of them, play the exact same schedule in the same year. They just play who's on their schedule, when's on their schedule. So people complaining about the Yankees' harder finish than the Blue Jays or Red Sox, there's no reason to complain because they all played 162 games. They all played the same amount of games against these same teams. So
they might be a little upset considering that they end their season against the Tampa Bay Rays.
Right, but the Yankees have 3 at Fenway.
Yes.
Then 3 against Toronto, then 3 against Tampa.
That's huge. That's huge.
That's brutal.
The Yankees this is the most frustrating Yankee team I've witnessed in a really long time because they've lost 8 games against the Baltimore Orioles this year. If we win 6 of those 8, this is a whole other story right now. So yes, people are like, okay, this is unfair, but at the same time, it doesn't matter because the Yankees put themselves in this situation. They were bad against the Baltimore Orioles, and this is inexcusable.
Right, and the Red Sox had played the most games in baseball. They still have, so they have a lot of off days coming up. They had an off day yesterday. They have an off day tomorrow, and then an off day on Monday. They have 2 against the Mets starting tonight, and then they have 3 against the Yankees. Then they finish out with 3 at Baltimore and 3 at Washington. So a nice gift for the Red Sox again, as they have a 1.5 game lead over Toronto. If they can just take care of business in these remaining games, they can shore up their grip on the first wildcard spot, which would be huge to have that game at Fenway Park compared to going on the road. Then lastly, Toronto has 4 against Minnesota, then 3 against New York and 3 against Baltimore. So out of the remaining schedules left, the Yankees obviously have the hardest schedule left once this series with Texas is done. I think that's look, all the Red Sox and the Blue Jays are playing for their playoff lives as well as the Yankees, and that could be what ends up biting the Yankees, is playing against 2 other teams that are in front of them and that have been better than them pretty much the entire season.
Is it fair to say that NPNC host James Higgins will be at that series in Washington?
I'll be at all 3
All
games.
right.
I already bought tickets.
You love to see it.
I thought James hit the nail on the head, except the Blue Jays have not been better than the Yankees all season.
No, well, they've been hot this year, this past, I guess, second half, really. They've been good. The last month, really.
But they have not been better than the Yankees all season.
They've had their struggle, but the thing is, when it comes to September baseball, it doesn't matter. If they get hot right now, that's all that matters.
I agree. I'm just saying the notion that the Blue Jays have been better than the Yankees all season is misleading. It's not true.
Right, but for the majority of the second half they have, and the Yankees have spent more days in 4th place than in 3rd place, which means Toronto is in 3rd place majority of the year than 4th place.
No, the Yankees have had the wild card spot ahead of Toronto more than Toronto's had it.
But no. But in the first half, when nobody was paying attention to the wild card stands, look, this is a stupid debate. But New York for the majority of the first half was toggling between 4th and 3rd place.
So bottom line, AL wild card, is it Red Sox, Jays, Yankees, or is that the only 3 we should be looking at, or do you guys think there's any chance?
I think it will be Toronto at Boston October 5th. Barrios first sale.
All right, Robbie, official prediction. Because I do think the Red Sox have that first spot. I really like the end of the year schedule for them. Who's playing them? Is it the New York Yankees or the Toronto Blue Jays? Or is it the Seattle Mariners?
And here's one thing I want to say. Yes, right now Chris Sale's scheduled to start game 162 with Nate Eovaldi, scheduled to start the wild card game. But I think the Red Sox will have the first one wrapped up before game 162. I'm not saying before that. They might wrap it up in game 161. But I think they will not have to win that last game of the season, which means they can push Sale back to the wild card game.
Robbie, who we got?
It's going to come down to that Yankee-Blue Jays series towards the end of the season.
It's important. Same thing as the Atlanta-Philadelphia series. That may decide the second spot. If you guys sweep them and play a good last series against the Rays, that's it. If they sweep you, same thing.
I've learned not to get my hopes up as a baseball fan. I'm going to just say the Red Sox and Blue Jays just to play it safe.
You are preaching to the choir.
I'm just trying to play it safe. I don't want my hopes let down.
Yeah, like I said, you're preaching to the choir. Don't get your hopes up.
And the Blue Jays are a dangerous team, more dangerous in a 1-game playoff than in a 5-game series because of that offense. But whoever wins the wild card game, Tampa Bay better look out because whoever wins the wild card game is going to be very familiar with them. The Rays are a game under 500 in September, and their starting rotation has an ERA over 5 since June 15th when Glasnow went down. I'm not saying Tampa Bay shouldn't be favored. I'm not saying they won't win the series, but I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk.
Without question. A great point indeed, James. And with that, that's going to conclude tonight's edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. We have some fantastic September baseball to watch over the next week. And we'll be coming to you live again next week here on WCUA Radio at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the middle of some very important games. I know it'll be in the middle of the Braves-Phillies series. Is that when the Yankees are playing the Blue Jays? Is it between?
Yeah, it's the second to last series, and the last series is against Tampa.
So we're going to have some really good baseball. We'll keep you updated on the scores during that time frame as well. Again, a reminder, go ahead, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, both of them at @PastimeCap. We'll be posting stuff there, and of course, tonight's show and all of the others will be live the next day on YouTube and shortly after on Spotify as well in podcast form. And with that, that's going to wrap it up here on Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital. I've been your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, James Higgins and Robbie Cruz. Have a fantastic rest of your night.